Drink has done a marvelous job. I'm waiting for him, not just the team. I'm waiting for him to kind of get the due he deserves.
It's Mizzou That's Who here on KC Sports Over Tucker Franklin, hanging out with Maggie Johnson, talking about your 4-0 Missouri Tigers as Missouri gets a huge night game SEC win. Maggie was there. How were the vibes, Maggie? It looked like great from my seat here on in Kansas City.
Thank goodness we finally got a night game where we got to show off what the athletic department has been doing. I think I tweeted this to them where I went, thank you for giving us this environment. Because the light shows, like with people's phones, the light shows with the new lights that they gave us, it was an incredible atmosphere. Everybody stayed until the very end of the game. You were packed in there like sardines. The tailgate was awesome. I mean, everybody was just, having a good time. Obviously, a little bit stressful because it was a stressful game because it's South Carolina, and you go into it knowing, it's going to be a stressful game. But yeah, it was a great Saturday.
It really was. And look, there's a lot of fun stats that we can pull from this game, too, as the Missouri Sports and Information Department. They put out their game notes after the fact. They went above and beyond for this one, pulling some stats in this game, because I was we've talked about how successful Missouri's been as a program, really, since Eli Drinkwitz took over, and now they have the second most home wins since 2020 amongst SEC teams, only trailing Alabama, who has 33. Missouri has 31. Faurot Field has turned into a huge home field advantage for Mizzou, and I think that's phenomenal. Obviously, the work that they're doing on the stadium, the construction, you mentioned the new lights.
It already keeps so much more sound in, and it's not even completed. Yeah, it keeps a lot more sound in. You can tell such a major difference. And then obviously it helps when you're selling out stadiums as well, but the sound is great, and when it's closed off, it's going to be loud in there.
Thank you, K-State fans, for continuing to sell out the games, too.
Sold out UMass for us this weekend.
Sold out UMass. I mean, that's huge. Homecoming week, obviously, is UMass. So for homecoming week, we had to pull out the big guns, Maggie, for homecoming week on this week's edition of Mizzou That's Who. ESPN's former ESPN anchor and Wipeout host is probably how you guys know him. John Anderson joining us on, and obviously a true son, professor at the University of Missouri now, to talk all things Tigers, his career, everything like that. So that's a good conversation coming up. We still got to talk about this Missouri-South Carolina game because, I mean, it's one of those games where they had their left tackle out. They didn't really have a kicker. And they had two guys really step up with Robbie Meyer being the kicker, Javen Richardson being that left tackle. And Maggie, truthfully, I said this on the postgame show, I didn't notice it a whole lot. Crazy that, South Carolina we talked about, Dylan Stewart, didn't really notice him a whole lot. Missouri did a really good job taking the most important player for South Carolina on that side of the ball out of it with a backup left tackle. I thought that was really impressive.
Yeah, I think they did a good job kind of staying away from Dylan Stewart a lot of it. They did. But that's smart. That's what you've got to do. I still think Javen Richardson played great. I think our offensive line played great. This was a weird game where usually with South Carolina, we expect it to be weird, but we expect to have like some type of weather event or, some type of overtime loss. This was a weird game for Mizzou where like half of their offense played great, half of their defense played great. Then the other half of their offense was like, meh. And then half of their defense sucked. Yeah. And so when you can still pull out a win and you can still pull out offensive numbers like that, and you're not perfect, that gives you so much hope for these other games that you're going into. Because a lot of those secondary issues, I was like rewatching the film, were miscommunication by the safeties and the corners. So I think if you can get some of that stuff cleaned up, you could go into the rest of SEC play feeling very positive.
I do think, and I talked about this on the post-game show again, is I think a lot of the stuff that we saw on the defensive side of the ball is fixable. There was Lenore Sellers made a couple of really good throws. Like, right, he was coming into the year the 1-1 quarterback. He was coming into the year the Heisman favorite. I know he hasn't played like that, but he's still a good football player, even though he's not that, right? So, like, I know that John Mateer's kind of taken that over from a lot of people, but Lenore Sellers, I think there was a report from Pete Thamel, right, coming into Saturday where he talked to a bunch of NFL executives and they still said that like Lenore Sellers would be the guy for a lot of them. So I think that there was a times where like, look, that guy's on scholarship too. And there's a couple of times where those wide receivers made some good plays. I think Missouri was in some good positions on a couple of those. And South Carolina had a lot of penalties. A lot of penalties in that game for almost 100 yards, I think. It was like 11 for 98.
14 or 15 penalties, I think.
14 for 98, I think is what it was. I don't have the team stats up in front of me. But I think Missouri did a good job being disciplined when they need to. They ran the ball really well, which is really great to see, Maggie, is that like they don't have to have Bo had an okay game. He made one poor decision. And I talked about this kind of at length in the post-game show, is the decision to, after they get that short field on the punt that went short, they get the short field. I understand the thought process from Kirby Moore of like, okay, let's take a shot now. Let's go for the jugular. We could really end this game if this happens. He just doesn't really see, like they're in zone. He doesn't see the guy underneath. He doesn't put as much. I think if he leads his guy a little bit more, I can't remember who he was throwing it to. If he leads him a little bit more, like I think it's money. Like we're not talking about that, but he didn't see the guy in the underneath zone, which whatever, it's fine. But he didn't play his best game at 171 yards. I think around 60% completion percentage, which is funny because like that game was probably, if Brady Cook had that game, we'd be like, wow, it's a phenomenal game. But the way that Bo's played in the first 3 games of the season, he's played really well. But here's the other thing. He didn't have to play that well because he didn't have to go out and have a day because Ahmad Hardy went out and had a day. Another game where he gets 22 carries, a ton of yards for him, 138 yards, has a 6th touchdown of the season. He's found the end zone at least once in every game this season, marking just the 10th time in program history a running back has achieved that feat through the first 4 games. And he's had 4 straight 100-yard games, tied with Henry Josie for 4th most consecutive 100-yard games in program history. He's had 6 straight 100-plus rushing games going back to the time when he was at UL Monroe, and 10 of his last 11 have been 100-yard rushing contests. I know we talked about Ahmad Hardy a lot, Maggie being like, oh, this kid's going to be pretty good, but SEC is a lot different than the Sun Belt. I didn't think he was going to be this good.
No, he's an animal.
Yeah.
And it helps when you have an offensive line as well as help from guys like Brett Norfleet. Brett Norfleet did a great job blocking them this time. He opened up so many holes. But Ahmad Hardy just never stops moving his feet. Like Dylan Stewart on that 5-yard touchdown run, I think it was in the 3rd. Dylan Stewart had him. He had him pulled down. Yeah. He just made the mistake of pulling him down on top of him and not thinking about how agile and how relentless Ahmad Hardy is. I think that was amazing. It's insane to me that he has 600 yards on this season already. Yeah. He sat out a lot of some other games. He has 120 or 225 more yards than the next rusher in the SEC, the Auburn guy. 225. Yeah. That's absolute insanity. And let's add on top of it that Jamal Hardy's like number 7th in the SEC in yards. I think he has 298. So we're not just talking about like one person. We are talking about, I would say, probably the best running back duo. Definitely in the SEC, maybe in the entire country. I know you have those, the Notre Dame. I think they have some really good.
Penn State's a good one too. Yeah.
Penn State. I think you have guys like Justice Haynes. I can't remember who his backup is, but I mean, you have good ones, but they're up there. They're 100% up there.
I just went ahead and pulled up the FBS leader stats. I mean, that kid from UTSA is running crazy right now, by the way. I don't know if you've seen this kid. Like, I saw that Ahmad's number 2, but I haven't watched that guy. If you go back, what's crazy about Robert Henry is if you go back and look at his game logs, it's just like, and then at the end of last year, like the last 3 games, he just like went off and has continued to just go off every single game. It's like something he figured something out. It's like, oh, I can just like run around guys instead of running into them. And then like that's like what he figured out. Yeah, it's crazy. But I'm trying to look now to see if there's any 2 running back duos that are. Let me look up Jamal Roberts right now. Jamal Roberts is 42nd in all of FBS in rushing yards, which is kind of crazy to talk about. But look, this is a team that has had 3 running backs have 100-yard games. Like, I mean, this is a team that running back has been a strength for this team for a while. This offensive line, good way to settle in and get some cohesiveness on the offensive line, running the football. And they are running the football at an incredible clip right now. I think Gabe tweeted this out, that like in the first 4 weeks of the season, Missouri has been almost exactly 50-50 in terms of calling runs and calling passes. And so like they've been so consistent. The offensive side of the ball has been the biggest and most pleasant surprise I think that you could ever ask for. The thing that they do need to fix, Maggie, and we talked about the secondary, it's the big plays. This is now the 2 times they've played real opponents, right? No slight disrespect to Louisiana or Central Arkansas. The real times they played Power 4 teams, that this score has looked a lot closer than it should have been. If you go and you look at the team stats of this South Carolina game, South Carolina rushed for negative 10 yards. Like, insane. Like, they held a SEC school to minus rushing yards. That's crazy. And really, outside
even if you take the sacks out, they only allowed 37.
Right. And like, that's the crazy part, is like their defense is playing so incredibly well. Their front is incredible. I mean, you can't say enough good things. Like, those big plays is what they have to negate, right? You even go back, you think about the Louisiana game, that 84-yard touchdown run, right? That's a big play that they allowed. I mean, in Kansas, they allowed those big plays. If they negate the big plays, stop allowing the big plays, I don't know if there's a lot of teams I would pick to beat this Missouri Tigers team if they get this figured out on the back end and stop allowing big plays, because they are, on the offensive side of the ball, dominating every team that they play. And that's wildly impressive.
And here's the thing, is that we're not going to face the Lenora Sellers every game. Like, I think that John Mateer is a very good quarterback. I think that's going to be a difficult game. But yeah, Mizzou gave up 302 passing yards. In the 2 games that Lenora Sellers has played us, we've given up 655 and 7 touchdowns. Like, it's not great, but all you had to do was stop them halfway, you know?
Yeah.
You forced Lenora Sellers to beat you in a game, and he can't beat you all by himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think Arkansas is facing a similar issue where they have Taylor Green, who's a very good quarterback. I think he's 3rd in the SEC in rushing, which is kind of crazy to think about too. But like, you're not going to face all teams that are like that. When you play Alabama, it's going to be more of a balanced type of scheme. You're not going to have teams that are just relying on that quarterback as much. So yeah, I think how Mizzou did it, and yes, the score was closer because also our red zone offense, for some reason, we were like, let's not run the ball in the red zone.
Yeah.
Let's run the ball the whole time, but when the field gets small, let's try all these passes. I don't know.
Right.
I think that they did great. They handled what they needed to do. They contained Sellers. They did do what we said that they were going to do, though. We knew that they were going to pressure, and they pressured.
Oh, yeah.
I think it said we pressured 27 times on Saturday. We'd only pressured 38 times total in the first 3 games.
Wow.
They made him work for all 302 yards that he threw for.
They did.
But our defense was great. Our front seven's great.
It's legit. I mean, you got guys like, you know, Nicholas Rodriguez. He got his first career sack. I believe
He had a game.
Man, there's a couple of those too. I think Nicholas. I could be misremembering this. I think Sellers threw a ball right to him, and he dropped
did.
it.
It was Nick Rodriguez. It was Nick Rodriguez. Yeah.
There was a couple of times that Missouri dropped 2 interceptions that they had. I think the first one probably wouldn't have counted because there was a holding, like the defensive holding. But like this game, it's the same thing we had the conversation about the Kansas game. This game should not have been as close. I mean, this was a 9-point win. Like a 9-point win, and you're talking about like, yeah, this probably should have been more than a 2-score game. Like you're talking about like this was already a 2-possession game. And you're like, it should have been more.
Yeah, well,
Crazy.
because you had that great play, that great one-handed catch by Marquise Johnson that put us,
oh my gosh,
I think, like around the 20 or something, and then you can't score and you have to kick field goals. Like we had 2, Robbie Meyer, which props to him, came through clutch at the end of the game, exactly what you needed from him.
Yep.
You don't have that much, we've missed 2 extra points.
And they're drop kicking on kickoffs.
They're drop kicking on kickoffs, which I don't really know is benefiting them that much.
I don't think it is. No,
I don't. We were talking about that. My friend Logan and I were talking about the game, and I'm like, but what really is this doing? I guess they're just trusting their defense and knowing that if they can run it to the 35 or the 40, that the defense can stop them. It worked sometimes. It didn't work other times, at least on the big secondary plays. But yeah, they've got to figure out a way to, I don't know what they're going to do, because there's going to be games that are going to come down to a field goal.
There is. Like,
his career long was that 40-yarder.
I hate to think that Alabama game's going to come down to a field goal. You feel a lot better, obviously, if Blake Craig's back there, right? Like,
But you know what? Robbie Meyer getting that 40-yarder, that can do nothing but build confidence.
100%.
Like, you miss an extra point, your confidence is low. This isn't even the first extra point that you've missed.
Right.
So it all it can do is make him feel like, okay, I can go out and I can do this against other SEC opponents. And I think, I mean, maybe this weekend against UMass, he'll get hopefully some more kicks out there. I don't know. We might just score a lot, but I was proud of him. I'm glad they gave him the game ball, and hopefully it just pushes him in the right direction.
100%. Those guys, he stepped up. He hit that field goal when he needed to. Obviously, as I mentioned, Richardson, he came in, played really well. Like, look, the injury with Caden Green's interesting because that popped up like after we recorded our podcast. I think he was like probable, and then it was like, what was it, Friday? That was like, oh yeah, no, he's out. Like it was like, oh, like that kind of happened kind of quick. I think it's a little minor surgery is what was talked about on the foot for him. Quick little cleanup. Sounds like he could be back by Alabama, but
they said 3 to 5 weeks, so that's pushing it. I think
that is. But I thought Richardson played well. That dude's a monster. He's like 6'6", 313 or something like that. Like that's an insanely large human being.
Yeah, like you said, I don't think that you noticed that big of a difference. It's not like we gave up a ton of sacks or.
Which I wonder if that's why they ran the ball so much. Obviously, they got a great running back and they got a great running game, but like a part of it being like, hey, offensive linemen, it's a lot easier when you have them go downhill and you have them do. You just hit that guy instead of like trying to pass protect. So like it's a little bit easier in that regard of like maybe, hey, let's run the football a whole lot more to get them a little bit more comfortable. And they can do it because they got two backs that are insane at yards. And what I thought was interesting, we talked about this on the post game show before we get to our conversation with John Anderson here. What I thought was interesting is at the end, they're like, okay, Jamal, ice this game. They took a Hardy out. I think it was a little bit because of the speculation was the ball security, because I think he had maybe a couple fumbles. I think only one was lost. But there's at least that idea from the defense to have like, oh, this guy will let it go. Jamal Hardy comes in there. Jamal combine them together. Jamal Hardy, a nasty back. Jamal Roberts came in there, took care of business, took care of everything. I mean, look, Bo ran the football well too. I think he had like 79 yards or something like that.
72. I think it was 72 for him, 76 for Roberts, and then 138, I think, for Hardy. So it was a good day on the ground all the way around.
Yep. And you will take that. This is how the Missouri team will be, but obviously they got UMass coming up, homecoming week underway in Columbia, Missouri. So we didn't think that there was a better way to kick off homecoming week than with a true son who is making a homecoming of his own, John Anderson, back at the University of Missouri as now an instructor in the J school there. So really gracious, really thankful for John for spending some time with us here on homecoming. Certainly a busy week for everybody in Columbia. So we'll hear from him coming up here in a little bit. You guys know we got to pay some bills to take a break first, and I'm calling all Chiefs fans. You could be on the field at the 50 inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss for a Chiefs home game this season. Visit Chiefs.com/GEHA now. Enter to win a chance to be on the field for a once-in-a-lifetime view of the pre-game coin toss. Plus, you could you could score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at Chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. Let's take a break. On the other side, we'll be joined by John Anderson.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
What's up, guys? I'm BJ Kissel, founder and CEO of KC Sports Network, and I'm here to talk to Kansas City businesses. If you rely on technology, you need an IT support team that's not just another vendor, but a true IT partner. That's why I want to introduce you to my friend and neighbor, KJ Miller. He is a VCIO at ThrottleNet, the Midwest's highest rated and most reviewed IT support company. They've been in business for more than 25 years, helping companies stay secure, productive, and ahead of the curve. They aren't just IT support, but they provide data security, IT strategy, and cloud software services. They do it all, and their reviews show they do it better than anyone else. So if you want to hear about how ThrottleNet can help your local business, join the conversation with myself, KJ Miller from ThrottleNet, and our resident genius from KC Sports Network when it comes to IT, at least as he's affectionately known by us, Mr. Craig Stout. Click the link in the description to hear how ThrottleNet can help you.
John, appreciate you joining the show here on Mizzou That's Who. Thank you for taking some time and sitting down with us.
My pleasure. Anything I can do anytime. I'm here to help the university and students, alumni, whenever I can wear black and gold and, get on Mr. Brightside. I'm ready to go.
Wait, so were you at the game on Saturday?
Of course.
Was that not, so I saw this stat, and I guess because we play so many afternoon games, I don't really think about the fact that we never play night games, but that's the best Mr. Brightside that I've ever, okay, the Kansas one was great. But at nighttime, like, people having their lights up, everybody's just way more energized. Like, it was amazing.
I'm not going to split hairs because you'd never want to just openly go at the host, but I think against Kansas is without peer. So that might have to be like its own category
for sure.
And we can snub that, but that's where I've decided how tough a game it was. Like, we only had to play Mr. Brightside once in the third quarter for South Carolina. We didn't have to play it all against Louisiana, 3 times against KU. So, if it's ever if it's a 2 Mr. Brightside game, then we're in a dogfight. We come through there. So that we got through with just 1 before the fourth quarter. I felt like, okay, that was a fairly comfortable win.
Yeah, we were winning. We were definitely winning after that.
I like that. I like that analytic. That's the analytic that we really need on the football team. Is how many
digs into that.
Yeah,
I know.
I like that. We'll try to get that to catch on here is what we'll do. But John, appreciate you coming on again. And it's homecoming week in Columbia. The history of homecoming in Columbia, the meaningfulness of this game is huge. Obviously, they have UMass this week, but a night homecoming game too. It seems like it's been forever since there's been a night homecoming game in Columbia. How's the atmosphere and the buzz around the city heading into this week, coming into this game?
Well, it's early, right? Like, I haven't been by the blood drive or the food donation or whatever, but I think just the team in general has got everybody buzzing a little bit. I tell people all the time when they're like, I don't know, is sports that big a deal? Should we be paying attention to sports? I'm like, come to this town when the team is good and they're 4-0, and come here when they're 1-3 and tell me if it makes a difference. And so I think with those couple of wins, beating Kansas, good win to start the Southeast Conference. The place is already, pretty jittery. Like, we're 1 Red Bull away from staying up all night. And now you bring in homecoming. Okay, so that's got all the history, which, by the way, people will be 1 Red Bull up from being up all night because they got to pomp floats and get ready for the house decks.
Yep.
Then you bring in UMass, which people are like, oh, it's UMass. Right. So it's somebody we know we can trounce. So we got a stress-free game. Somewhere tomorrow in Drink's press conference, he will tell me I'm wrong, but that's okay. I'm not going to believe him. We should beat these guys. There's a reason there's their homecoming opponent in 4 straight games. And so I think you add all that up, and then there's something about the night crowd, right? We'll be able to go to the parade, get a little nap, start in again. And I think we'll blow the roof off this dump by the time it's 10 o'clock on Saturday night.
You mentioned some of the other activities that they do, like the blood drive, the pumping for the house decks, obviously the parade. A lot of people maybe coming in town or that didn't go to Mizzou, that are just Mizzou fans, don't know as much about all of those traditions. I was Greek, so I did all of those traditions. But
Sure.
Do you have a personal favorite?
What house were you in, by the way?
I was an 80 pie. Oh, no, don't laugh. Yep.
My wife is on the national board of the 80 Pies.
Oh, I love that.
If you get the 80 Pie magazine, she writes in it all the time. So
I do get it. So
well, there you go. Here's to all the lions and the diamonds and whatever else you guys all do. So good for you. By the way, you got a lovely house here on campus. It's very nice.
Thank you.
Do I have a favorite part? Usually it's like winning the football game, right? At its core, I'm kind of the sports guy. It's okay. I like when the band comes along. I was fortunate enough to be the Grand Marshal in 2002, and riding in the parade was great with my old son and Tiger outfit and all that stuff. But I still just I like the football game, and I would like to win the football game. That's, all the surrounding stuff is great. That's all, we have wonderfully ornate framing around it. But in the end, I would like to get out on the field and win a football game. That is my favorite part of it.
John, you kind of have a little bit of a homecoming yourself, tier 2. I mean, 25 years at anchoring SportsCenter and on ESPN as well, and you coming back and instructing at the university as well. How has that kind of been to kind of reacclimate it in that regard?
So that part's been really amazing, right? I mean, I get a lot of yes. It's 25 years at ESPN, but before that, it's 10 or 11 years in Phoenix and Oklahoma. And so it's, I left here in 87. And I've come back a lot. It's been nice to come back for whether it's games when I was close in Tulsa, or when I sat on different boards to come back and do those kind of things, which was really neat. But to kind of relocate here, and to be a part of the university again, and to try and sort of make a difference and give back and do things that were done for me when I was here during those 4 years is really kind of, sometimes it's pretty daunting. Kind of okay, I hope I'm doing this right, and they're learning something. I don't want them just to go, oh, I had a class with the guy with the big balls and da-da-da-da-da. Hopefully they're getting more than that. The only real tough acclimation has been, or getting acclimated, is that when I was here, right, and you're on campus, my world was college to Providence and stadium to Broadway.
Right.
Every once in a while, my wife will go where is that? And I'm like, I have no idea. But what do you mean? You're from here? I'm like, I was here 4 years, 4.5 and 2 summers. But I'm like, I wasn't, and when I was here, this was the entire world that I had. On occasion, we snuck across Broadway to get maybe to Ernie's Diner, which is 1 block up.
Yeah.
Maybe a little to go over and see if there was any gal that liked us at Stevens College, but we were very close to those parameters. So if stuff is out there on Ashland or Nifog, I'm like, we're going to have to use that app on the phone and we'll find it.
No, that's funny. I feel like you definitely change. When I bring people to Columbia, I try to show them downtown, but then I'm like, do you want to go eat at D-Rose? You want to get kind of away from campus a little bit, because there's just so many people, and you can't get into Flat Branch or Addison. So those places that, you grew up wanting, or when you were in school wanting to go to. So totally get that. You mentioned you've been gone since 87, but you've come back for lots of games. I've seen photos and all of that of you back. Do you have a favorite game of those games that you've come back to watch as an alum?
Oh boy, to page through some of those will be tough. It was really cool to be here when we beat KU this year. In 2002, when I was in Grand Marshal, we beat Homecoming. When we beat KU, that was great. You forget when I first came out in 87, we lost a lot for the next 10 or 11 years, right? Okay, so I was at the 5th down game, not that awesome when we came through there.
Yeah.
So
Not awesome.
No, and then when I'd come back, when we had board meetings and stuff, they're like, oh, let's pick a game and have a weekend when we know we can win, and we come back. So I don't have any that just jump out at me that I'm like, thank God I was there. I have some on the road. I was there when we beat Georgia on the road. That was big, a couple of Cotton Bowls. But and maybe that's funny. As much as I fixate on Homecoming, my favorite part's the game. When I do come back in those old situations, right? So it then was all about the game, especially when you lost as often as we did. So then it was about, but I did get to go to Booch's for a burger, and I had a pork tenderloin over at the Heidelberg, and I was able to stop in at Shakespeare's, and we lost, and I ate my way into some sort of heart attack that's probably going to show up here anytime soon. So in that regard, I would more about, what does the kids say? I'm more about the vibe
There you go.
than the outcome.
I think that sometimes that's a good way to be about the vibe a little bit when it comes down to it. You mentioned the big balls, and I don't think we could go very far into the podcast without talking about you on Wipeout, John, because that is one of my favorite things that you've done. I know you've done a lot of really good things, but I think I want to know how many people now come up to you and be like, "Oh yeah, you're the guy from Wipeout, not the guy from ESPN or the guy from SportsCenter."
I think probably the generation that I have in class associates me more with that than they do
Probably.
SportsCenter. And I have a sports kind of oriented class. It's a freshman writing class, but they've put kind of sportos in it. But I think those people, especially because I haven't really been on SportsCenter now in 1 year, they think I probably was just at Normandy as a World War II correspondent, the way things go now. But yeah, so a lot more of them do that. And they're all really kind of nice. They don't say much. And then at the end of the semester, they go, "Okay, could I just get a picture for my dad or for my mom? Because there's the Wipeout guy." And I'm like, "Well, I appreciate, like, I do worry about that." They're like, well, I'm in this English writing course and he's talking about the inverted pyramid and we want to talk about big balls. And they're like, "Is this what we're doing, honey? Is this what we're spending our tuition on? Is this the kind of thing?" Right? We have noted PhDs, we have Nobel Prize winners, and our kid got the Wipeout guy. Hopefully I dispel that with them at some point. They go, "Oh, maybe he does know what he's talking about."
Right.
But the nice thing is, if I ever really need a good joke, I've got a guy to call in California and just dial up John Henson, and then next thing you know, I got material. So that's always good too to have. But yeah, a lot of them of this time of this age, 18, 22, 23. That's what they remember me from, which is cuckoo.
I am much older than the 18 to 23 age bracket. So I know you from ESPN and all that, but it is funny because I already talked to you about how I'm friends with one of your friends, Charlie.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first met him, I put in in my phone for his name just to like be funny. It's Charlie, Wipeout guy's friend. And I still have that as the name. He knows it's in there. So if he listens to this podcast,
that's all right. We just call him Chuck.
Yeah.
We just call him Chuck. God bless him.
Yeah, he's a good guy. But thinking, like, going back to those ESPN commercials, I wanted to kind of ask you, I have my personal favorites of some of your hilarious ESPN commercials. And I want to know maybe what your favorites are, and then I'll tell you what mine are. We might overlap.
Wow. I was really fortunate to be in a bunch of them. I was really fortunate to be in a bunch of good ones. And then you're really fortunate because you really don't have to do anything, right? The funny is in the gag and the funny is on them. Like if you look at them, most of them that are really funny, you have to say like 2 words or 1 line. And so they try to limit our participation. I always remember the very first one I did. 1, because it was first, and 2, the entire band Bon Jovi was in the newsroom, right? So we're getting ready to go and you're just in the green room and they're coming makeup and you're just sitting next to John Bon Jovi and Ricky Campora, and you're like, because this is just a normal day at the work. I'm sure this is what happens to accountants over there at Price Waterhouse. This is what's going on down there, So that one was kind of crazy. Because I love track, doing one with Usain Bolt was fantastic. The Manning one was fun with those guys because they were just behind the scenes thing was really fun with those guys. Maria Sharapova was delightful. She walked in with like a little dog and a little bowling ball case, and you thought, "Oh boy, this is going to be a Diva Central thing." And she was not. She was terrific. And then I get a lot of runs still. Unfortunately, it was a super funny commercial, but it comes up a lot is what happened with Steve, the alligator hunter, and Steve Irwin. That one kind of gets a lot of play, but Ricky Fowler was great. And they're just, I ended up in my shorts playing poker with a bunch of guys like Johnny Chan, like. Just some of the crazy stuff we did is, outrageous. But those were some of the ones that'll always be like, that'll be kind of fun. I'm glad that's on my resume, but it's, I got a reel of those things bouncing around here somewhere.
The Florida one is one of my favorites, and I was also a Steve Irwin fan. I'm a St. Louis girl. I live in St. Louis.
There you go.
I love the Albert Pujols with the machine. I think that one is that one's great.
He was supposed to kill me. A copy machine sent him to kill me. And luckily he showed some humanity.
Yeah.
And then I also, you mentioned the Ricky Fowler one, and I liked that one, but I think in that one, you're standing next to the counter and you have a Mizzou mug.
Yeah, I got my Mizzou.
And like, I love that about it. You're just always repping. So yeah, those are some of my favorites as well.
Yeah. But those were always good. They took a long time, but boy, were they worth it. They were great fun.
What's up, everybody? Benny Heiss with KCSN, betting analyst for Kansas City Sports Network. And Missouri, get ready The wait is almost over because DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app, is coming soon to the Show Me State. And guess what? You can get started today because new Missouri customers can get $300 in bonus bets once DraftKings Sportsbook launches on December 1st. You can download it now, place a $5 bet once they are live. Guys, DK Sportsbook brings everything you need to really elevate your game day. You got live in-game betting, super fast payouts, endless ways to get in on the action, all right from your phone. And when they are live in Missouri, you're going to be betting with the Sportsbook app trusted by millions. It is safe, secure, fast money withdrawals. That's the place you want to play. So here's what you do. You download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use the code KCSN to grab $300 in bonus bets with just a $5 bet when DraftKings Sportsbook goes live on December 1st. That is code KCSN in partnership with DraftKings Sportsbook. Remember, if you have a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. You must be 21 plus, physically present in Missouri. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 7 days after they're issued. Excludes customers who redeem pre-launch sign-up offer. Terms are available at sportsbook.draftkings.com/promos.
My name is Terrell Jolly. A lot of people call me TJ, founder and CEO of Integrity Capital Management. So Integrity Capital Management originally started out as a property management firm, but we slowly transitioned into what is described as an incremental development firm that's focused on situational housing. I know most people say affordable, but we believe in creating housing for people that are actually in need and built to the end user. I believe everyone needs a home because when you have home, you have hope. The reality is that when you're building a business, one thing you don't think about is like what a true banking relationship means. And, I had the honor and privilege of meeting Debbie early on in my career when I was just trying to get going. And as a small business, it's really challenging at times because people don't understand the concept or not believe the longevity because you're just getting started. But Debbie was willing to take a chance on me, be patient with me. I almost look at it like a grassroots initiative. She's seen and believe what I'm about. Anybody that's really true about their business and want to get some things done, I would definitely trust hands down Emprise because Deb's team, along with Aaron and Jackie and all the amazing people that work behind the scenes, even from the treasury side, I would say, hey, give them an opportunity because you won't be disappointed and you will actually be in hands that actually somebody care and that will see you from start to finish.
Incredible. It's an incredible era of ESPN that you were a part of too. I mean, just one of those. Yeah, I mean, just an era of ESPN that made me want to get into sports media too. I'll say that, like you and Stuart Scott, another one of those guys that really, when I watched you guys on ESPN, I was like, you know what, that's what I want to do. And from a young age, that's how I knew it. Is just saw you guys having fun talking about sports.
I don't know that when I got there, I knew how all that would shake out. When I left Columbia in '87. ESPN was just starting to be a destination. It was only 8 years old. It was not the phenomenon it became. And I was lucky because I got there when almost all of the original guys that raised it to its height. I always say it's kind of like the NASA program. People like Chris Berman and Charlie Steiner and Bob Lee were kind of like the Gemini and the Mercury astronauts.
Yeah.
Right. They took all the risks. And then you had guys like Patrick and Oberman who landed on the moon and became uber famous. And then the rest of us came by and we were kind of later in the Apollo era and we flew the shuttle, which meant like we were super good astronauts still, but we weren't quite as famous as the guy who were walking on the moon. But I was really lucky in my timing there is that I got to work with a bunch of those people. By the time I left during the pandemic, they were, as we were trying to put together a show only every so often, I got to do one SportsCenter with Keith Olbermann. And that was kind of the last box I needed to check, really, because I did a Super Bowl with Dan and several other shows. And I worked with Stuart, Rich Eisen, and Bob Lee on the night that Muhammad Ali died. So I got almost, I was really lucky that I got there to work with almost all these guys that were established, which is really amazing. I always compare it. It's kind of like my time here at Mizzou. I got here just in time that the Shack was still here before the chancellor burned it down. I got here when Don Farrow and Tom Botts, two legendary coaches, still walked around the track every day when we ran. So I got here just in time to get kind of a touch to all those people. So I was really fortunate there. here in the mid 80s. And I've been really fortunate in my 25 years at ESPN that I got to be in touch and know kind of everybody there that was a somebody at some point.
Well, it's really cool. It was really cool to watch you for all of those years and just know that you were, from the same cloth.
Waited to say something mean about Kansas. You're right. That's
yes.
That was actually great too. Yeah.
It's funny. I asked Jeremy Macklin a couple weeks ago when we had him on the podcast if he lowercases the K on Kansas, and he says that he doesn't do it now because he has players. But do you do that as a journalist? Yeah.
I literally, the week of, I made a big graphic to put it on the overhead, and it was the small K in you and the small K in Kansas. And I asked them just AP style if they knew that you should never capitalize something that's not a proper name nor a proper place. So I literally went over that with my students, that's how you do it. Yeah, totally. Right.
You gotta, for the ones that don't know, because I was a Big 12er, I was in school during the Big 12. They might not know that. So they need the refresher in your class.
My kids will tell you that when they took geography tests in grammar school, that they used to come home with 98 out of 100 because they just, out of respect, they thought, well, I'll still get an A. And so they just left it blank. My daughter did say one time that she circled it to get it right because she said, I wasn't going to let Kansas ruin my perfect score. That she did tell me her hand shook when she circled the right answer. So I'm like, okay, that's acceptable. So yeah, it's probably not healthy, honestly.
Well, how many things are, I guess, anymore. So, I mean,
sports world.
Right.
But it's like a jelly donut. It's super enjoyable. It's just probably not healthy for me.
Every time. I don't care if it makes me look like I'm 12 years old. Every time I do it, I'm doing it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, I went in and, before the game, Coach Drink asked if I'd come visit with the team a little bit about it one night. And I said, sure. And I told him, I said, like, it is petty and it's childish and it's ugly and it's terrific. It's awful. Go for it.
Well, John, we really do appreciate your time. Only a couple more questions that I got for you. I want to know what your thought is on the state of the program right now. I mean, you look, they got a construction site going on at the stadium. They've just built a new facility of a few years back now. They've had that indoor facility now. That they've got the program is winning 25-5 in the last 3 seasons. Eli Drinkwitz has kind of turned this program around from where it was in between the Gary Pinkel era to now, after Gary Pinkel retired. What are your thoughts on the program, how Drinkwitz has done with the team?
So Drink's done great. Like, we'll always be indebted to Gary.
Yes.
Because if he doesn't make the program really good and attractive, we don't go with the SEC.
Yep.
Right? The SEC doesn't look at us unless our football team is good. And so we owe that to Gary. And as much as I love Chase Daniel, right, the most important player we ever had here was Brad Smith. Right? If he doesn't come here and do what he does, then Chase doesn't come and build on all that. So those guys are seminal figures. And then, we kind of were here. Barry just was kind of a status quo. There was nothing. And, Drink has come in, and even remember, granted, he's some pandemic things in there where it was tough to you're kind of like Fred Flintstoning it, right? Like you're just going like that where the car goes nowhere. But he's done the thing that's hard, and he's built this great thing. It appears to be a great culture. Guys seem to be liking it here. We lose a transfer now and again, but it's never seemed to be a guy yet that we really wanted that went, oh, that's going to make a difference. So he's managed that. The thing I just worry about always is like now I watch Ahmad Hardy, and I'm like, okay, is he playing himself into a price range where we can't keep him? Right? Like, I want you to be really good, but not so good that Georgia goes like, we'll play for him then, and we'll just take him from you. Yeah. And I think that's sort of a worry, right? That Luther stuck around all those years, even last year, if they thought everybody said he was kind of, maybe he backed off a little because he was worried about his draft position. He stayed, bless his heart. So that's the thing I kind of worry about, because I don't know that we'll ever be able to spend with Georgia's and Alabama's and some of these things. And quite frankly, I'm all right with that. I think we joke about the jelly donut, but I think that's healthy, right? I've been to some of those other places. I'm like, I think this is not the best way to do. You people are unreasonable. Right. But I worry about that. But Drink has done a marvelous job. I'm waiting for him, not just the team. I'm waiting for him to kind of get the due he deserves. I look at this, and when the poll comes out, and I think you could throw a blanket over the middle of these SEC teams. I think they're all very good. But people know Lane Kiffin because he yaks around and he's been in there longer, so they get votes. Shane Beamer and and South Carolina, they run them up the flagpole. They're great because Beamer's a name and he does a nice job. But his dad's name carries some weight. Sarkisian, they're okay, but but his name and Drink's just kind of there, doing his thing, and he just right now his name recognition. So we always are kind of like, there's the Tigers, and because they're not like voting for Lane Kiffin or some other name, we sit at 25, and then we get to 23, and then it's 20, and it just takes a while.
Yeah.
And I said this week. It's always curious to me that when we win and we beat somebody, they're like, well, yeah, but South Carolina's not that great. So suddenly they're not there. So then but if people beat us, we always go in the good wins column for people. And they put up a resume, good wins. And it always shows Missouri. And yet when we win, I'm like, how come we don't seem to be reflected in how, and maybe that's just me for 30 years of really bad football, or maybe 20 of it that was really lousy and we're just coming into it. So maybe I'm just, kind of old and bitter about that. But I do think that sometimes we do not get looked upon that matches what's the actual ability we show on the field. Sometimes we are underrated.
You and I have the same thought process. And I've mentioned it multiple times on this podcast that there's just so much disrespect. And it's crazy because the fact that we were 21 and 22 and 5 or 21 and 5 when we went into the season over the last 2 seasons, and they're still like, no, top 7 transfer portal class, return a bunch of your production, but no, we're not gonna put you in the top 25.
Yeah, and I get some of that. Okay, here's your quarterback. We don't know, and then they're gonna go, oh, Bo's pretty darn good. But you go to the Cotton Bowl and you beat Ohio State, and you shut them down. And what do they say? Well, they didn't have their quarterback. Okay, but you still had a 4-star quarterback. Your third string quarterback was a 4-star quarterback, and we're still playing with Brady Cook, who nobody wanted other than Mizzou because he was here. Right. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hang on and get my handkerchief to cry for your 4-star quarterback that you have on there. Well, our guy opted out. Okay, well, a lot of them did, but the fact that your guy didn't care enough to play, that's not my fault. So,
our guys didn't play too. We had 2 top 100 draft picks that didn't play.
Right.
But I agree too. They do that. They do that all the time when you talk about 2013 and 2014. They're always like, well, the SEC East was down. And I'm like, South Carolina and Mizzou finished in the top 5. So just because the teams that you typically think are good, like Georgia and Florida, weren't as good, that doesn't mean other teams weren't good. I'm on the same page. It drives me nuts.
Although in 2014, I said to somebody the other day, every once in a while, I just go, I think I just saw Trey Mason from Auburn run by me again. So I do have flashbacks of him.
He haunts my dreams.
Yeah. I will tell you. So every once in a while, like you get some out of the corner of your eye and you're like that, and they go, what was that? I said, I think that was Trey Mason blowing by me. Sometimes usually it's a deer on the side of the road, but my first instinct is to think it's just Trey Mason running free again.
Naturally, I think it is, but I think that's a really good point. And I joked around when I was doing our live post game show that like Missouri's win over South Carolina would probably drop them out of the poll, because if you remember, last year they beat Vandy, and they just get knocked down a couple spots. Like it's crazy. It's like this is like, and I know this isn't like the only team that this happens to, right? With like the poll disrespect. But John, there's been a lot of conversation about the AP poll recently of people being like, hey, maybe this process isn't that great. Like maybe we should try to refine this process to like a, 21st century model to have people vote on this. I'm curious your thoughts on the AP poll process.
I would cry. I'm old school. I want the poll. I want UPI. I want like when 7 teams would claim a national championship because 4 wire services that are no longer in print do that and named them. I don't have any problem with it, because then if we just get down to metrics, you're like, okay, here are a bunch of stats. Well, how many times did you watch a game? And you're like, well, look at the Kansas game, right? We the stats 9 times over, but you only won by X. Mm-hmm.
South Carolina too.
We ran that much, right? So that should say something. We need to kind of clean that up. Yeah. But the statistics, you can manipulate them in a lot of different ways. And do you do the eye test and all this other stuff? So I like the polls. I hate the playoff at 12. I think 4 was enough. So in that regard, I'm kind of old school, but I do think I'm very much on the Vince Scully stat thing when he said that, people use stats like drunks use light posts. They're more to prop you up than they are for illumination. And so you just kind of take them and you build them up to be whatever you want to support your case rather than the end all. So just to look at metrics, you mentioned Albert Pujols. And I always said, like, you can come up with whatever fancy metric you want. You can work the numbers. God bless. Bring in Bill James or Einstein or Stephen Hawking, whatever. I think the best players are the best players. I bet if you figured out whatever stat it was, slugging, OPS, WAR, any of them, Albert Pujols was still going to be one of the best players in his 12 years when he was with the Cardinals, right? Whether you want to go, well, it's old school. It's just homers, RBIs, and batting average. Yep, he wins. Okay, let's do OPS and WAR and slugging. Oh, Albert Pujols is still the best player out there, right? Like, so I think in some regard, the best teams are always still going to be the best teams, no matter how you slice it up.
Awesome. Well, I don't have any more questions for you. That was amazing.
That's my entire life in a nutshell. It only takes about 27 minutes. Fits nicely into a class. There'll be no quiz, and you can have Wednesday off. We'll meet again next week. Yeah.
Well, Mr. Anderson, we do appreciate you coming to this class today. So we appreciate your time and sharing some of those great homecoming moments. As homecoming week is underway now in Columbus.
Here we are.
Very excited. So
by the way, I feel like that when you turned around to show me you're from St. Louis, you went to the letters and not to the big giant Budweiser can over your other shoulder.
Oh,
right, like, as you know, yeah, I'm from St. Louis here, but I like that you showed me the letters. That's how I'm going to know.
It has Nelly on it too.
I mean, that's so St. Louis. That is
the most St. Louis that you can possibly be right here.
Yep.
Yeah, and I have Mark McGuire up here.
Yeah, but nonetheless, let's just go with STL. That's the one that made it clear. Okay, yeah, not the giant, pony keg of beer you have Budweiser you have over your shoulder. That's fine.
I have this baby Bud Light Chiefs one too.
Yeah, well, you never know when you get. It's that's kind of a break glass in case of emergency size.
Yeah,
you're good. Thanks for having me, guys.